this uncertainty still increasing and contributing to the ongoing tensions with Venezuela.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a lot of people looking on and wondering whether this means some kind of confrontation down the line. But we know that the undercurrents of a lot of what we've been seeing is that Caracas does believe that Washington is seeking regime change, something we've even heard from President Trump in sort of nuanced terms. But what are your sources telling you?
Yeah, we reported back in September and since then that there are some within the Trump administration who are pushing a strategy to effectively conduct strikes inside Venezuela with the idea of pushing Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, out of power. That is still something some U.S. officials hope can be accomplished as part of this military buildup. But at the same time, we also know that the Trump administration told Congress just a few days ago that it doesn't currently have the legal justification to target anything inside Venezuela or any other territory, even though they are potentially seeking an additional legal justification that would allow them to do so. So really some uncertainty, some ambiguity there. As you mentioned, Donald Trump has been non-committal on this since the beginning, both speaking in very verbose terms, in terms of threatening Nicolas Maduro, but at the same time, not going all the way to commit to U.S. forces conducting some sort of a regime change strategy operation targeting him. So we're gonna have to wait and see what ultimately happens. But again, there's really a lot of questions as to what all this U.S. firepower, a significant piece of the U.S. Navy, what it is doing there and why it's needed, which is again is stoking the questions about a potential regime change in Venezuela.
Yeah. All right, Zacho, and great to have you on the story. Thank you so much.
Joining me now to discuss all this is retired U.S. Air Force Colonel and CNN military analyst Cedric Leighton. Welcome to the show for the first time. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much, Alex. Appreciate it.
So what's really going on here with Venezuela?
Yeah, so this is a very complex issue, actually. But what's basically happening is that the U.S. is moving its forces in, just as you described, with the USS Gerald R. Ford, the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, basically entering that particular part of the world. And since it's there, it was moved from Europe, it now gives the US extra air power that it can potentially use against targets in Venezuela. Now, the administration, the Trump administration, has denied that it is going after regime change in Venezuela, but the types of forces that are arrayed against Venezuela or against targets in Venezuela is way more than what you need for a drug interdiction mission, and not quite enough to really affect regime change. So we're kind of in that gray zone right now in terms of the numbers of forces. But I think what the administration wants to do, Alex, is they want to have a presence in the area that will perhaps force change in Venezuela. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, Nicolas Maduro, who leads Venezuela, has expressed concern that the Trump administration wants there to be regime change. Do you think that's what's going on here? And if so, how would that even happen?
Yeah, that would be one of the most difficult things to actually do. Now, I can see from Maduro's point of view that that's exactly what he sees. If you're, sitting in Caracas and you're looking out across the Caribbean and you see all these naval vessels coming toward you and the aircraft flying along your coastline, then you certainly think that there's something more going on than just going after some boats that are on the coastline. So what Maduro is doing is he's beefing up his forces. He's calling up the reserves. He's calling up his military, his National Guard, and they are, in essence, putting themselves in a position where they think they can defend